The morning sun cast long shadows across the Coronado Naval Base as Master Chief Rodriguez gathered his elite team of 20 Navy SEALs around the briefing table. These weren't ordinary soldiers, they were the cream of the crop. Men who had survived the brutal BUD-S training and earned their coveted Trident pins. Each had years of combat experience in Afghanistan, Iraq, and classified operations around the globe. "Gentlemen," Rodriguez began, his weathered face serious, "today's exercise is different. We've got visitors from the Army Marksmanship Unit. 2 shooters who think they can outperform you in precision shooting." A few chuckles rippled through the group. Petty Officer Jenkins, a sniper with 3 confirmed kills in Fallujah, leaned back in his chair. 2 against 20? This should be interesting, Chief. Rodriguez held up his hand. "Don't underestimate what you don't understand. These aren't regular soldiers. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos has won the International Precision Rifle Championship 3 years running, and Sergeant First Class Rebecca Thompson holds the record for the longest confirmed sniper kill by a female in U.S. military history, 1,247 yards in Kandahar province. The room fell silent. Even these hardened warriors understood what those achievements meant. Chief Petty Officer Williams, who had been casually cleaning his fingernails, sat up straighter. Outside the briefing room, Santos and Thompson were conducting their own reconnaissance. Santos, a compact woman with calloused hands and sharp eyes, studied the training course through binoculars. At 28, she had already served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan as a designated marksman with the 82nd Airborne. 20 targets, varying distances from 300 to 800 meters, she murmured to Thompson. Mix of static and pop-up targets, some partially concealed behind barriers. Thompson nodded, making notes in her tactical notebook. At 31, she was the older of the 2, a former Marine Scout sniper who had transferred to the Army Special Operations community. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a regulation bun. But there was nothing regulation about her reputation. She had earned her stripes in the mountains of Afghanistan, where she had provided overwatch for countless Special Forces operations. "Winds coming from the southwest at about 8 miles per hour, Thompson observed, checking her Kestrel weather meter. "Temperatures rising, it'll affect bullet trajectory on the longer shots." The challenge had originated from an argument during a joint training symposium 3 months earlier. A cocky SEAL instructor had claimed that no soldier, male or female, could match the precision shooting capabilities of his teams. Santos, never one to back down from a challenge, had responded that she and Thompson could outshoot any 20 SEALs on any given day. Word of the boast had traveled up the chain of command, eventually reaching Colonel Patterson, who saw an opportunity for valuable cross-training. "Make it happen," he had ordered. "But make it fair. Full tactical scenario. Real-world conditions." The rules were simple but demanding. Each shooter would engage 20 targets of opportunity that would appear randomly across the range. Points would be awarded based on accuracy and speed. The SEALs would work as a team, communicating and coordinating their shots. Santos and Thompson would work as a 2-person sniper team, with Santos as the primary shooter and Thompson as her spotter. As the 2 women walked toward the starting position, they could hear the confident chatter from the SEAL team. These men had trained together for years. They knew each other's capabilities, could anticipate each other's movements, and had developed the kind of battlefield telepathy that comes from shared danger and mutual trust. "Look at them," whispered Petty Officer Martinez to his teammate. "They're actually going to try this." But Santos and Thompson had their own advantages. They had been training together for 8 months, preparing for international competition. Santos had an almost supernatural ability to read wind conditions and adjust for variables that would confuse other shooters. Thompson's spotting skills were legendary. She could identify minute changes in mirage patterns and atmospheric conditions that affected bullet flight. The weapons were standardized to ensure fairness. Each shooter would use a Mach 11 Mod 0 sniper rifle, the same platform used by Navy SEALs. The ammunition was match-grade 7.62 mm NATO rounds, carefully inspected and measured for consistency. At 0800 hours, the range safety officer called both teams to the line. The SEAL teams spread out across their designated firing positions. A formidable line of America's most elite warriors. Each man carried himself with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing he has survived the impossible and excelled where others failed. Santos took her position behind her rifle, adjusting the Harris bipod legs and settling into her shooting stance. Thompson lay beside her, setting up her M151 spotting scope and range cards. They had done this dance hundreds of times before, but never with stakes this high. The range stretched out before them, a carefully designed maze of obstacles, barriers, and target positions that replicated real-world combat scenarios. Some targets would be visible for only seconds, others would require precise shots through narrow gaps between barriers. The longest shots would test the limits of both equipment and human capability. Master Chief Rodriguez's voice crackled over the radio. "Range is hot. Shooters ready?" 20 SEALs responded with crisp, ready calls. Santos simply nodded to Thompson, who keyed her radio. "Female team ready. First target sequence will commence in 30 seconds, the range officer announced. Santos controlled her breathing, settling into the zone that every precision shooter knows, that place where heartbeat slows, vision sharpens, and the entire world narrows to the crosshairs and the target. Thompson adjusted her spotting scope, running through mental checklists of wind speed, temperature, and range calculations. The SEALs were professionals. But Santos could sense their assumption that this would be a quick demonstration of male superiority. They expected to overwhelm the two women with superior numbers and firepower. What they didn't understand was that Santos and Thompson weren't just shooters. They were artists with rifles, scientists of ballistics, and warriors who had proven themselves in the crucible of combat. 10 seconds, the range officer called. Thompson whispered last-minute corrections. Wind shifted 2 degrees left. First target will likely be the 400-meter pop-up behind the concrete barrier. Santos made micro-adjustments to her scope, her finger resting lightly on the trigger. She had fired over 50,000 rounds in training and combat. Her muscle memory was perfect, her calculations automatic. 5 seconds. The range fell silent, except for the distant sound of waves crashing against the Coronado shoreline. 21 of America's finest warriors waited for the signal that would begin an extraordinary test of skill, determination, and pride. The first target appeared at exactly 800 to 30. A silhouette popping up 450 meters away, partially concealed behind a concrete barrier. The SEALs reacted with practiced efficiency, but Santos had already identified the target through Thompson's precise spotting. Her shot broke the morning silence a fraction of a second before the first SEAL pulled his trigger. The target dropped, center mass hit confirmed by the range officer. "First blood to the ladies," Thompson murmured with satisfaction. The real competition had just begun. The second target materialized at 620 meters, a challenging shot that required precise elevation adjustment and careful wind compensation. Thompson's voice was calm and measured as she called corrections to Santos. Target left, 620 meters. Wind 3 miles per hour from 2 o'clock. Elevation up, 0.7 mils. Santos made the adjustments smoothly, her breathing controlled and steady. Around them, the SEALs were coordinating their own response, but their system required more communication between team members. By the time they had identified the target and made their calculations, Santos had already fired. The metallic clang of bullets striking steel echoed across the range. Another hit. Chief Petty Officer Williams keyed his radio. "How are 2 shooters getting on target faster than 20 of us?" Master Chief Rodriguez watched through his observation scope, his expression unreadable. He was beginning to understand that he might have underestimated these women. Their system was more efficient because it required fewer moving parts. Santos and Thompson had developed a communication style so refined that Thompson could convey complex information with just a few words. The third target appeared at 350 meters, an easier shot but positioned to test quick target acquisition skills. This time, 3 SEALs managed to engage simultaneously with Santos. All 4 shots found their mark. But the range computer showed that Santos's shot had impacted 2.3 seconds faster than the quickest SEAL response. Petty Officer Jenkins wiped sweat from his forehead. "These women are good. Really good." The fourth target challenged everyone involved. It appeared at 780 meters, the maximum effective range for their weapons system, and remained visible for only 8 seconds. The target was partially concealed behind vegetation, requiring shooters to identify the exact location and compensate for multiple environmental factors. Thompson had been tracking wind patterns for the past 10 minutes, noting subtle changes in vegetation movement across the range. When the target appeared, she was ready. Target far right, 780 meters, behind the scrub brush. Wind variable, 4 to 6 miles per hour from 3 o'clock. Hold right edge. Santos found the target in her scope, made her calculations, and fired within 4 seconds of target appearance. The SEAL team was still communicating target location when her bullet found its mark. "Impossible," muttered Petty Officer Martinez. "Nobody makes that shot that fast." But Santos had been making shots like that for years. During her deployment to Kandahar province, she had provided precision fire support for over 40 combat missions. She had learned to read wind, mirage, and terrain under pressure. When missing meant that American soldiers died. This training exercise, intense as it was, felt almost relaxed compared to firing at Taliban fighters who were shooting back. The 5th through 8th targets tested different aspects of marksmanship skill. One appeared at 425 meters but required shooting through a narrow gap between 2 barriers. Another was positioned at 550 meters but moved laterally across a 20-meter window. The 7th target was static but camouflaged to blend with its background. The 8th challenged shooters, with an extreme uphill angle that affected bullet trajectory. Santos and Thompson adapted to each challenge with fluid professionalism. Their years of training together had created an almost telepathic connection. Thompson could anticipate what information Santos needed before Santos had to ask. Santos could interpret Thompson's spotting calls and make complex adjustments while maintaining perfect sight picture. The SEAL team was struggling with coordination. These were individual masters of their craft, but they had never worked together as a shooting team. They were accustomed to operating in small fire teams of 4 to 6 men, not as a 20-person sniper squad. Their communication net was becoming cluttered with overlapping calls and conflicting target identification. "Too many voices," Chief Williams observed to his teammate. "We're getting in each other's way." By the time they reached the halfway point, Santos and Thompson had successfully engaged 12 targets with 11 confirmed hits. Their only miss had been a 700-meter shot, where changing wind conditions had pushed their bullet just outside the scoring zone. The SEALs had managed 10 confirmed hits among their 20 shooters, an impressive achievement by any normal standard, but not enough to match the 2 women's performance. Master Chief Rodriguez called a brief halt to allow both teams to hydrate and check their equipment. During the break, he observed the 2 women's routine with professional interest. Santos methodically checked her rifle, inspecting the barrel for fouling and ensuring that her scope mounts remained tight. She had fired 12 rounds, and each shot had heated her barrel slightly. Precision shooting required understanding how barrel temperature affected bullet flight characteristics. Thompson was updating her range cards, noting wind patterns, and making calculations for the remaining targets. She had identified several positions where environmental conditions would be particularly challenging, and she was preparing solutions in advance. "They're not just good shooters," Rodriguez realized. "They're complete weapon systems." The SEALs, by contrast, were displaying typical masculine confidence that was actually working against them. Several were arguing about target identification procedures. Others were suggesting modifications to their communication protocol. They were trying to solve their coordination problems through force of personality rather than systematic analysis. Petty Officer Jenkins approached Santos during the break. "Ma'am, I have to ask, how are you making those calculations so fast?" Santos smiled. The first time she had relaxed since the competition began. "Thousands of hours of practice, Petty Officer. And understanding that speed comes from simplicity, not complexity." She showed him her range card, a carefully prepared chart that contained pre-calculated solutions for various distances and environmental conditions. "Thompson and I have been mapping this range for 2 days. We know the wind patterns at different times of day, the effect of temperature changes on our ballistics, and the exact distance to every possible target location." Jenkins studied the card with newfound respect. You've been preparing like this was an Olympic competition. Because it is, Thompson interjected. Every time we touch these rifles, we're competing against the environment, against the equipment, and against our own limitations. The break ended, and both teams returned to their firing positions. The remaining 10 targets would be the most challenging, designed to push both equipment and shooter skill to their absolute limits. The 13th target appeared at 650 meters. But the challenge wasn't distance, it was timing. The target would be visible for exactly 3 seconds, requiring instant target acquisition and immediate firing solution. Thompson had been tracking her stopwatch, predicting when the target would appear based on the established pattern. When it popped up, she was ready. Target center. 650 meters. No wind compensation needed. Send it. Send it. Santos was already on target when Thompson finished speaking. Her shot broke within 1.2 seconds of target appearance. The SEAL team never had a chance. By the time they identified the target location, it had already disappeared. The 14th target tested pure marksmanship skill at maximum range. At 800 meters, with a crosswind of 12 miles per hour and rising temperature creating challenging mirage conditions, this shot would separate true precision shooters from merely good ones. Thompson spent 45 seconds reading conditions, watching wind flags, studying mirage patterns, and calculating environmental effects on bullet trajectory. When she was satisfied with her solution, she passed detailed corrections to Santos. Santos made her adjustments methodically, understanding that at this distance, a tiny error in calculation would result in a complete miss. She settled into her shooting position, controlled her breathing, and applied steady rearward pressure to her trigger. The shot felt perfect the moment it left the barrel. 2 seconds later, the distinctive sound of bullet striking steel confirmed another hit. 3 SEALs had also engaged the target. 1 managed a close miss, while 2 others missed entirely due to insufficient wind compensation. With 6 targets remaining, Santos and Thompson held a commanding lead that was beginning to seem insurmountable. But the final challenges would test them in ways they had never experienced before. The 15th target introduced an element that changed everything. Time pressure, combined with multiple sequential engagements. 3 targets would appear simultaneously at different ranges, remaining visible for only 5 seconds each, but appearing in sequence with just 2-second intervals between them. This scenario replicated the chaos of actual combat, where snipers might need to engage multiple threats rapidly while maintaining precision. It was designed to break down the careful, methodical approach that had served Santos and Thompson so well. Thompson's voice remained calm despite the increased pressure. 3 targets incoming. First at 450 meters. Second at 600. Third at 520. Wind steady from 4 o'clock at 7 miles per hour. When the first target appeared, Santos was ready. Her shot connected cleanly, but she had only 2 seconds to transition to the next target at a completely different range. She worked her bolt action smoothly, chambering a fresh round while adjusting her scope elevation. The second target required significant elevation change and wind compensation adjustment. Santos made the corrections fluidly. Muscle memory taking over as conscious thought would have been too slow. Her second shot struck home just as the third target materialized. This one required her to shift left and adjust for closer range. The mechanical precision she had developed through thousands of practice rounds served her perfectly. 3 shots, 3 hits, total time elapsed, 14 seconds. The SEAL team, despite their numerical advantage, managed only 2 confirmed hits on the sequential targets. Their communication system couldn't adapt quickly enough to the rapid target changes. Chief Petty Officer Williams shook his head in amazement. I've never seen shooting like that. But the competition was far from over. The 16th target introduced psychological pressure designed to rattle even experienced shooters. The target appeared at 700 meters, but it was accompanied by loud explosions and smoke effects designed to simulate battlefield conditions. Santos had experienced real explosions and gunfire during her combat deployments, but the artificial nature of this simulation was actually more distracting than real combat. In actual firefights, her adrenaline and training took over automatically. Here, she had to consciously ignore effects that her brain recognized as fake but her nervous system responded to as real. Thompson helped by providing a steady stream of information that kept Santos focused on the mechanical aspects of shooting. Target steady at 700 meters. Wind unchanged. Mirage showing stable conditions. You own this shot. Santos breathed deeply, settled into her natural point of aim, and fired through the artificial chaos. The target dropped immediately. The SEAL shooters, despite their extensive combat experience, were also affected by the simulation. The explosions and smoke created visual and auditory distractions that interfered with their precision. Only 2 of the 20 managed confirmed hits. The 17th and 18th targets tested equipment limits as much as shooter skill. Both appeared at maximum range in rapidly changing light conditions as clouds moved across the sun. The changing illumination created varying mirage patterns that affected target visibility and bullet trajectory calculations. Santos and Thompson had encountered similar conditions during mountain training in Colorado, where afternoon thunderstorms created rapidly changing atmospheric conditions. They adapted by taking multiple quick readings and averaging their calculations. Lights changing fast, Thompson observed. Temperature dropping 2 degrees. Mirage is shifting left to right. Adjust accordingly. Santos made continuous small adjustments as she tracked the target, reading environmental changes and correcting for them in real time. Both shots connected, though the second was closer to the edge of the scoring zone than she preferred. The SEALs struggled with the changing conditions. Their larger team structure made it difficult to communicate rapidly changing environmental information effectively. Several shooters made corrections based on outdated information, resulting in misses that would have been hits under stable conditions. As they approached the final 2 targets, the SEAL team realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. These weren't just skilled shooters, they were artists who had elevated precision shooting to a level that few humans ever achieved. Petty Officer Martinez voiced what everyone was thinking. We're not just losing. We're getting schooled by masters. The 19th target represented the ultimate challenge. 800 meters. Moving laterally at approximately 3 miles per hour. Visible for only 4 seconds. In changeable wind conditions with complex terrain features that created unpredictable air currents. Thompson took nearly 2 minutes to analyze conditions, using every tool and technique at her disposal. She watched grass movement at multiple distances, studied mirage patterns through her spotting scope, and calculated multiple environmental factors. This is it, she told Santos. Everything we've trained for comes down to this shot. Target moves left to right. 800 meters. Wind is 8 miles per hour from varying directions. Lead the target by 18 inches. Hold for elevation based on 800-meter solution. But expect wind to push it right by 6 inches. Santos absorbed the information while watching the target area through her scope. When the target appeared, she tracked it smoothly, leading it exactly as Thompson had calculated. Her shot timing had to be perfect. Fire too early and the bullet would pass behind the moving target. Fire too late and it would pass in front. She squeezed the trigger at precisely the right moment. The bullet's flight time to 800 meters was just over 1 second. During that second, the target continued moving. The wind continued affecting the bullet's path, and gravity continued pulling the projectile downward. The bullet struck the moving target with a metallic clang that seemed louder than all the previous hits combined. The SEAL team erupted in spontaneous applause. Even Master Chief Rodriguez was clapping. No one on his team had even attempted that shot. They recognized it as beyond their current capability. The 20th and final target was positioned at a moderate 500 meters. But it incorporated every challenge from the previous engagements. Time pressure, environmental complexity, and psychological stress. Success required perfect execution under maximum pressure. Both teams knew this shot would determine bragging rights for years to come. The SEALs had managed 16 hits out of 19 targets, an impressive performance by any standard. But Santos and Thompson had 19 hits out of 19 attempts. If they could make this final shot, they would achieve perfect scores against impossible odds. Thompson's final spot was thorough and precise. 500 meters, steady target. Wind 6 miles per hour from 5 o'clock. No complications. This is a shot you've made 1,000 times. Just let your training take over. Santos settled behind her rifle for the final time. She had fired 19 rounds, and her barrel was warm but not hot enough to significantly affect accuracy. Her shooting position felt natural and stable. Her breathing was controlled and steady. She found the target in her scope, made her final adjustments, and applied smooth rearward pressure to her trigger. The shot broke cleanly. The bullet flew true. The target dropped instantly. Perfect score. 20 targets, 20 hits. The range fell silent for a moment, before erupting in cheers from both teams. The SEALs rushed over to congratulate Santos and Thompson, their professional pride overwhelmed by genuine admiration for exceptional performance. Master Chief Rodriguez approached the two women as they secured their weapons. "Ladies," he said, extending his hand. "That was the finest display of marksmanship I've seen in 30 years of service. You've earned the respect of every person on this range." Santos and Thompson exchanged glances, sharing a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had proven that skill, preparation, and teamwork could overcome numerical superiority. More importantly, they had demonstrated that excellence knows no gender boundaries. Chief Petty Officer Williams summed up everyone's feelings. "I thought we were the best shooters in the military. Turns out we're just the best shooters we knew about until today." The formal competition was over, but the real victory was just beginning. Word of the unprecedented performance spread quickly through the special operations community. Within weeks, Santos and Thompson were receiving invitations to train with elite units throughout the military. Their demonstration had proved that two dedicated professionals could outperform a larger group through superior preparation, refined technique, and perfect teamwork. The lesson wasn't lost on the SEAL community, which immediately began studying their training methods and communication procedures. 6 months later, both women received offers to join the Army's premier sniper training program as instructors. They accepted, understanding that their greatest victory wasn't beating 20 Navy SEALs in a shooting competition. It was inspiring a new generation of precision shooters who would carry forward the standards they had set. The range record they established that day, 20 shots, 20 hits, against maximum range targets under combat conditions, remained unbroken for over 3 years. But more importantly, their demonstration proved that excellence in the military comes from dedication, skill, and teamwork, not from assumptions about who can or cannot perform at the highest levels. Years later, when students at the Army Sniper School asked about the legendary competition, instructors would tell them, "Never underestimate an opponent who has spent more time preparing than you have, assuming you'll win." The story of 2 women versus 20 Navy SEALs became more than just a shooting competition. It became a lesson in humility, preparation, and the power of perfect execution under pressure. It reminded everyone involved that in the military, as in life, results matter more than assumptions, and skill trumps stereotypes every time. Santos and Thompson had not only won an impossible challenge, they had redefined what was possible for everyone who came after them. Their legacy wasn't just perfect marksmanship. It was proof that dedication and excellence know no boundaries.